High in the Himalayas lies a small kingdom that dared to reject everything the modern world celebrates. This is Bhutan, the country that measures success not in money or power but in happiness. While the rest of the world fights to raise GDP and build endless cities, Bhutan quietly built an economy of peace, forests, and community. Here, every decision, from roads to education, is judged by a single question: will it make people happier? In a century obsessed with consumption, this tiny nation became a reminder that progress can mean stillness. Its mountains protect more than its borders. They shield an idea the world is too busy to notice. Bhutan's story began in isolation, locked between the giants of India and China, but it emerged with a vision that could change humanity's path. Gross national happiness became its guiding star, a philosophy that values health, environment, and culture over production and profit. Villages flourish without factories, traditions thrive beside technology, and children grow up learning compassion before competition. Yet Bhutan's dream is not a fantasy. It faces the same pressures every nation does. Young citizens seek opportunity abroad, global prices rise, and modernization tempts even the most spiritual hearts. But the kingdom adapts without surrendering. It harnesses hydroelectric power instead of coal, nurtures green tourism instead of mass industry, and teaches coding alongside meditation. The lesson Bhutan offers the world is simple but radical. True wealth begins when a nation dares to slow down. As the planet burns and economies crumble under greed, Bhutan's forests remain alive, its air clean and its people largely content. This is not luck or isolation. It's design, a deliberate choice to prioritize meaning over materialism. Bhutan proves that a country can survive, even thrive, when it chooses kindness over competition. The question is whether the rest of the world will listen, because perhaps the future of civilization does not belong to the largest economies or the loudest powers, but to those small enough, humble enough, and wise enough to remember that happiness is humanity's first and final goal. The kingdom in the clouds hidden between the towering shadows of the Himalayas. Bhutan was once a mystery even to its neighbors. For centuries the world didn't know it existed, and Bhutan seemed content to keep it that way. No highways, no advertisements, no fast food chains, no flashing lights. Only the rhythm of prayer wheels turning beside rivers of mist. In this land, the mountains are not obstacles. They are guardians. The people believe that every tree has a spirit, every river has a soul, and every sunrise carries a lesson. Life here moves slowly, deliberately, in harmony with nature rather than in defiance of it. When the rest of the world rushed toward industrial revolutions and digital empires, Bhutan looked inward and asked a question few nations dared to ask: what is the purpose of progress? That question became the foundation of everything the kingdom would stand for. Under its fourth king, Jigme Singai Wangchuck, Bhutan made a decision that would change its destiny forever. It would measure development, not through the wealth it accumulated, but through the happiness of its people. This idea was not born in a laboratory or think tank. It came from centuries of spiritual wisdom, from Buddhist teachings that remind humans that desire without compassion leads only to suffering. The king understood that the pursuit of happiness was not a luxury. It was a necessity for survival in a chaotic modern world. So Bhutan built schools that teach meditation alongside mathematics, laws that protect forests instead of corporations, and policies that value smiles as much as salaries. While other countries cut down trees to build cities, Bhutan declared that at least 60% of its land would remain covered by forest forever. While others polluted the air in the name of growth, Bhutan became the only carbon-negative country on Earth. Every breath of wind that passes through its valleys carries a message of balance between tradition and technology, between ambition and peace. Yet life in Bhutan is not perfect or untouched. There are struggles here too. Villages that crave better roads, youth who dream of city life, and farmers battling climate change. But unlike most nations, Bhutan faces these problems without forgetting its soul. When disasters strike, people rebuild together. When the economy falters, communities share what they have. And when the world pressures Bhutan to modernize, it answers with quiet confidence: we will modernize our way. The world outside may call it naive, but Bhutan calls it wisdom. As the sun sets over the Dzongs, the ancient fortresses glowing gold in the mountain light, you begin to realize that this kingdom is not living in the past. It is showing us the future we have forgotten. Future where humans live not as masters of the earth, but as its guardians. A future where happiness is not a dream. It's the plan. The storm at the border. But peace is never immune to the noise of the world beyond. As the 21st century roared forward, The winds of globalization began to rattle, even the quietest corners of Bhutan. Across the southern border, India and China were locked in their own race, building, expanding, consuming. And in that restless motion, Bhutan's stillness began to look almost rebellious. Foreign corporations saw untouched forests and mineral veins. Political powers saw a strategic prize between two giants. The world that once ignored Bhutan now wanted a piece of it. Trade pressures intensified, and the quiet kingdom found itself at the crossroads of ambition and preservation. The younger generation, raised on smartphones and streaming screens, began asking new questions. Why can't we have what the rest of the world enjoys? Why must we stay small when everyone else grows big? For them, happiness meant opportunity, choice, connection to a wider world. But for their elders, happiness was balance, belonging, and spiritual peace. Between these two visions of happiness, modern and traditional, Bhutan began to tremble like a bridge between two worlds. In the capital, Thimphu, glass buildings now rise beside ancient monasteries. Monks type prayers on laptops, and teenagers in traditional robes take selfies before statues of the Buddha. The paradox is stunning yet fragile. The king's vision of gross national happiness faces its greatest test, not from war or poverty, but from desire. Foreign media call Bhutan the last Shangri-La, a paradise untouched. But the truth is more complex. Behind the stunning landscapes and serene faces lies a nation wrestling with questions every country must answer in its own way. How do we grow without losing who we are? How do we embrace progress without erasing our past? In the hills, farmers still wake at dawn to chant and pray before tending their fields. But the rhythm of global life now echoes even here. Imported goods arrive faster than values can adapt. Climate change creeps into the highlands, melting glaciers that once seemed eternal. The same forests that made Bhutan proud are now under threat. Not from greed, but from survival. Yet even in this storm there is clarity. The Bhutanese government refuses to chase growth at any cost. It rejects plastic packaging that clogs rivers elsewhere. It invests in hydroelectric power not for profit, but for sustainability. And when the world mocked its slow pace, Bhutan simply smiled. Because for them, progress is not a sprint. It is a pilgrimage. It is a journey to remember what truly matters when everything around you is changing. And that lesson, quietly echoing from the Himalayas, might be what the rest of the world needs most. A reminder that happiness is not found in what we take from the earth, but in what we give back to it. The price of happiness. In a world obsessed with numbers, GDP, inflation rates, export charts, Bhutan dares to measure success with something intangible. Happiness. Sounds poetic, almost naive. But for over 50 years, this tiny Himalayan kingdom has chosen gross national happiness over gross domestic product. While other nations build skyscrapers, Bhutan builds values. But the price of such idealism is steep. You see, refusing to play the global economic game means standing alone in a world that worships wealth. The country's total economic output is barely $2.7 billion a year, less than what some Western suburbs produce. By conventional logic, Bhutan should be struggling, yet its people remain content, their smiles quiet but genuine. But is that contentment sustainable? Nestled between India and China, Bhutan sits in the shadow of two economic superpowers. Every truckload of goods, every kilowatt of power, and every trade negotiation must navigate this uneasy geography. Building even a single road here can take years, carving through unforgiving mountains that guard the nation like sleeping giants. Modern infrastructure is scarce, and industrial expansion remains nearly impossible. Factories can't thrive where freight costs are higher than profits, and shipping anything through the Himalayas means paying a toll to nature itself. So instead of chasing mass production or industrial dominance, Bhutan chose a quieter path, one that prioritizes balance over ambition. The government focuses on environmental preservation, cultural protection, and equitable development. It might sound romantic, but this philosophy has real consequences. There are fewer jobs, slower growth, and limited foreign investment. Young Bhutanese dream of better opportunities abroad, torn between gratitude for their homeland and hunger for something more. The same mountains that protect Bhutan also confine it. Tourism could have been their golden ticket. With breathtaking landscapes, ancient temples, and an aura of mystery, Bhutan could easily rival destinations like Nepal or Tea. The hidden contradictions, for all its calm landscapes and spiritual aura, Bhutan hides a quiet struggle beneath its prayer flags. The nation that preaches happiness is still tethered to the hard realities of survival. Poverty lingers in the valleys, and opportunity is a scarce currency. The idea of gross national happiness is noble, Yet happiness doesn't build hospitals, fix roads, or power homes. Money does. Bhutan knows this, and so its greatest challenge has become balancing purity with practicality. The government can speak of peace and contentment, but behind those smiles, officials must still find ways to pay for schools, healthcare, and infrastructure without sacrificing their soul to globalization. Bhutan's economy relies heavily on a single resource, hydropower. Its rivers, fed by Himalayan snowmelt, provide the nation with a clean energy source that lights its homes and fills its treasury. 6 massive hydroelectric dams have transformed these mountain streams into engines of survival, generating more electricity than the country itself can use. The surplus flows south into India, bringing in crucial foreign income. This partnership, though beneficial, has created a quiet dependency. If India sneezes, Bhutan catches a cold. The very policy that gives Bhutan stability also ties it to its giant neighbor's political mood and market demand. In a twist of irony, Bhutan, the nation that rejects materialism, has also become a surprising player in the digital age. The same electricity that flows from its rivers powers computers that mine Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies. It's an unexpected contradiction. A Buddhist kingdom built on simplicity, fueling the speculative chaos of global finance. But it's also a sign of adaptation, a recognition that ideals alone cannot sustain an economy forever. Even happiness needs funding. Yet despite its modest size, Bhutan stands tall in one area where most developing nations stumble: corruption, or rather, the lack of it. Ranked among the least corrupt countries in Asia, Bhutan has proven that morality can be an economic asset. Leaders here live simply, bureaucracy moves with unusual honesty, and greed is socially shunned rather than silently celebrated. This moral foundation has kept Bhutan's institutions surprisingly strong for such a young democracy. Since formally transitioning to constitutional monarchy in 2008, the kingdom has managed to avoid the political chaos that often cripples nations in transition. Still, Bhutan walks a fine line between preservation and progress. The world around it races toward automation, globalization, and consumerism, while Bhutan still values simplicity, silence, and spirituality. But can a nation remain untouched forever? Young Bhutanese see social media, technology, and foreign culture flooding in. Their dreams are larger than the mountains that encircle them. They want opportunities, careers, and global recognition. And slowly, that desire begins to test the foundations of Bhutan's philosophy. The contradiction of Bhutan is that it wants to stay small in a world that demands expansion, to remain humble while surrounded by giants, and to measure success in smiles while the rest of humanity counts in dollars. But how long can the kingdom hold that line before the world pushes too hard? The future of happiness? Bhutan's future sits delicately between two worlds, one ancient, one modern. On one side are the mist-covered monasteries, where monks chant in the same rhythm their ancestors did centuries ago. On the other side is the hum of a digital generation, their eyes fixed not on sacred scrolls, but glowing screens filled with dreams of cities, careers, and influence. The question haunting Bhutan's policymakers isn't whether gross national happiness is good, it's whether it can endure. Can a nation built on serenity survive in an age that rewards speed, growth, and noise? For now, Bhutan's commitment remains unshaken. Forests still blanket over 70% of the land. The Constitution demands environmental preservation as a national duty, ensuring Bhutan remains carbon negative, a title no other country in the world proudly holds. But as climate change shifts weather patterns and population pressures grow, even paradise faces stress. Hydropower, Bhutan's economic lifeline, depends on the rhythm of snowmelt. If glaciers shrink faster than expected, the country's main export, clean energy, could falter. A green economy may soon need greener innovation. Tourism too, the jewel Bhutan polishes cautiously, faces evolution. As the world grows more curious about slow travel, Bhutan's model of high-value, low-impact tourism might finally align with global trends. But success comes with risk. Popularity can corrupt purity. Once millions flood the valleys chasing spiritual selfies, the silence that defines Bhutan could vanish. The government knows this, and so it continues to ration access, letting in only as many as its soul can bear. Domestically, Bhutan's greatest challenge lies in its youth. The new generation is educated, connected, and increasingly restless. They admire their culture, Yet they crave change. Jobs are limited, urban life is expensive, and the lure of migration to India, Singapore, or the West grows stronger each year. The same philosophy that preserved Bhutan's peace now risks stifling its potential. Happiness cannot feed ambition forever, and a nation must evolve or fade. Still, there is something deeply resilient in Bhutan's story. Its kings and leaders have proven remarkably adaptable, introducing democracy without revolt, modernization without losing identity, and progress without environmental collapse. They understand that gross national happiness was never meant to be a rejection of economics, but a redefinition of it. Happiness here isn't about laughter or comfort, it's about balance, a harmony between people and planet, between the spiritual and the material. Perhaps the world will never fully adopt Bhutan's model. Most economies are too large, too tangled in competition to slow down. But the kingdom's quiet defiance stands as a mirror to our chaos, a reminder that the ultimate purpose of growth is not wealth, but well-being. And as global crises mount, Bhutan may yet prove to be the teacher the modern world never knew it needed. Because in the end, when empires fall and markets crash, the one resource that will always matter most is the one Bhutan has guarded all along: human happiness.